All right, welcome back. Now, before we switch over to security, let's continue the discussion on this controversial Executive Order 6. And I'm now being joined on the program by GT Ogunye, who is a lawyer. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Yes,
so much debate and controversy over Executive Order 6. You look at the content of the order itself, you would say, well, not too bad. I mean, if an order says, an order that restricts people from using, assets now that are under litigation and all of that should not be a bad idea. But some people have said, well, probably where the government got it wrong was when it decided to impose that ban on 50 high-profile Nigerians.
Well, there's been a lot of controversy about this Executive Order 6, so much so that people who are yet to read that order
and that's absolutely
will just jump and say, oh, since it's emanating from the Buhari administration, so it must be what those who are criticizing the order are saying. It is. But even a cursory reading of that order will show very clearly that it is meant to galvanize the anti-corruption war and strengthen it. I mean, there are such beautiful provisions in the order that provide against dissipation of assets. Because if you are a lawyer, you will know. Even if you are not a lawyer, you will know. In a civil proceeding, for example, in a typical civil proceeding, if the subject matter of a civil proceeding is like a landed property in dispute, or a property, a house in dispute and all that, you can approach the court and obtain an order of injunction restraining the defendant from dealing with that property or dissipating that asset or selling it or alienating it during the pendency of that matter.
Okay, yeah.
It is not so in a criminal proceeding.
Okay.
In a criminal proceeding, except exhibits have been recovered or traced, the person who is standing trial is the subject, is the focal person of that criminal trial proceeding.
And not the property.
And not the property as such.
Not the asset.
So except those assets have been traced and recovered and then directly traced to the money that is allegedly stolen or that corrupt practice. So it does happen that a person who is standing trial for being corrupt may end up using the property to also frustrate the administration of criminal justice as it relates to him. And so if you have an executive order that is meant to prevent that and other things, that may inhibit speedy trial and then not ensure that justice is immediately served, I think it's salutary. I think it's salutary because even with the innovation that we've had under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and I'm talking about Section 306 that prohibits stay of proceedings, and Section 396 that provides for the day-to-day hearing of cases. We've seen cases pending in court now for 2 years, even under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, because lawyers will come with their technical pranks. I'm a lawyer myself, and all sorts of things, and then that will elongate the trial. We've seen people who claim that they are bedridden and they are dying being brought to court in stretcher. We've seen many things. We've seen people who are being brought to justice, alighting or jumping from vehicle on their way to court and claiming that they've broken their neck. There's nothing we've not seen in this country. And so if you then have such order that, as it were, supplements what our criminal procedure doesn't provide for, I think it's salutary. Pending the time, you may then have a provision in our criminal procedure that can deal specifically with those ones. For example, regarding the latest rollout under the Executive Order 6, which, by the way, has been validated by our court. I take the point that if you claim that an executive act is ultra-virus, the executive is unconstitutional, is illegal, is null and void, you have recourse to court under Section 66B of the Constitution. And so I'm aware that certain persons went to court to challenge the legality and constitutionality of that order. And that order has been validated by a court of law, which pronounced that there is nothing inherently unlawful or unconstitutional in that order, which, by the way, provides that you can go to court, if you claim that any act done pursuant to that order infringes on your fundamental right and civil liberty. Now, that's a kind of first instance, and there could be appellate remedies. But as of today, what that court has pronounced is the law for the time being. Now, the point is that regarding the latest ban, I know that a lot of people have come out to say that the right to freedom of movement is sacrosanct, the right to liberty is sacrosanct, that it's the prerogative of the court to restrict the movement of somebody undergoing a criminal trial by seizure of the passport, and that this appears to be like a duplication because it's global and universal, and it attacks the independence of the judiciary and the administrative discretion of the FCC, etc., etc. That also, asks a person undergoing criminal investigation, particularly as it relates to anti-corruption cases, to deposit the passport. My view is that it is not so. There is no rule of law. This is what people don't appreciate. There is no rule of law. There is no provision of a criminal procedure that makes it mandatory for a court of law to demand that the passport of a criminal defendant be deposited. In recent time, it has been the practice.
Yeah, sure.
There was a time, it was the practice that certain courts would be asking people to go and produce their traditional rulers to stand for them as sureties, until the West Supreme Court, as the CJN, came down heavily and said, this outlandish condition of bail, where do you find it in the procedure? Go and bring a traditional ruler, go and do this and so on and so forth. There is no rule of law that provides for that. But it is judicial practice, right? In the same vein, there is no rule of law. There is nothing in the EFCC Act, in the Anti-Money Laundering Act, anywhere that says that if you are being investigated by the FCC, you must deposit
your passport, your international passport.
So, in the event that EFCC does not request that you should deposit your passport, or EFCC even does that, and you deposit your passport, and because of the free movement policy in the West African Corridor, ECOWAS protocol, you then move down to Badagry and then saunter through the border, or you have 3 passports. As indeed it was alleged in the case of a Supreme Court justice who was said to have 3 passports, and you deposit 1, and you still have 2 that are valid. Or you have dual citizenship, and you deposit your Nigerian passport, and you run out of the country with the other one. So what happens? Or the court does not say that you should deposit your passport, or the court even does that, as I've argued, you then use your yellow paper or whatever to pass through the border, and then off you go. So there is a need, in my view, for that kind of executive order, for that kind of risk. Why? Because unlike
we have cases of people who have actually fled from their trial.
I give you an example.
A typical case in point: the former head of the amnesty program, Kingsley Kuku, for instance, fled.
Deji is not in the country. And very instructively, the chief law officer, former chief law officer of the Federation,
absolutely,
the Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Adoke, has been regaling Nigerians with epistles of how innocent of the Malabu scandal he was, writing to the vice president and claiming that he was being persecuted and so on and so forth. And I believe that he's still innocent in the eye of the law. He's presumed innocent. But he was so innocent is he, that only recently his father, who sired him, died. It's in the news. He's so innocent that he couldn't even come into the country to pay his last respect to his father. That's a former chief law officer, a senior advocate of Nigeria. So people do run away regardless of whether you have criminal prosecution against them. So if the executive that is in control of our anti-corruption agencies, don't forget EFCC, ICPC, the police, they are all part of the executive, is now saying this is an order we are rolling out. Why should that be a cause for worry? If anybody whose name is on that list claims that his fundamental right to liberty, to freedom of movement has been infringed upon, he can then go to court, via an application for judicial review of executive actions to strike down the inclusion of his name or strike down the entire order as it relates to the release of name in this entirety, right? So it is not, I don't see the reason why, maybe there's something about the Buhari administration that attracts so much hasty and spontaneous condemnation, regardless of the merit of it. Oh, the regime is raising it. And then you see editorialists, talking about how, as a lawyer, I read through and I say, what is inherently bad in this now? I can't see it. And I want to be fair. I know that this administration, I'm talking about Buhari administration, has violated the rule of law is in many respects. The court will order release this person. And they will be released. And then we can talk about Zakzaki, we can talk about Dazuki, we can talk about those journalists that were put in detention for 2 years by the SSS in a democracy, right? We can talk about such things. But that does not blind me to realize when something comes out that it is better that we deal with it in a constructive manner without just thinking that, everything that comes out of this administration is bad. For me, really, I don't see anything wrong in this. It is desirable for criminal investigation of high-profile anti-corruption cases and those ones that are not high-profile cases, and adjudication to be conducted and adjudicated with dispatch. We complain about the lengthy trial that we have. We complain about the anti-corruption agencies not recording feats, not recording convictions. How are they going to record convictions if, assets that ought to be recovered are scattered all over the world, and a criminal suspect has access to those things, to dissipate them and all that? That would not be fair. Elsewhere, and I've talked about it, there's this French citizen, the former is World Bank or IMF chief, I think World Bank.
Dominic Strauss-Kahn.
Beautiful. Who was alleged to have assaulted an immigrant African worker at the hotel in New York. And he was running to the airport to go to France. Right? He was arrested there and he was brought to justice in handcuffs. By the way, our Administration of Criminal Justice Act, following the Tafa Balogun handcuffing, and then the cry in town that, why should you handcuff him?
You don't handcuff a big man, but you can handcuff a poor man.
Of Criminal Justice Act has just provided now that except somebody is violent and trying to escape, you must never handcuff him. Bill Cosby had just been handcuffed. Was he violent?
Not at all. Was
he trying to escape? That's a symbolic demonstration of the triumph of the rule of law over man and his excesses. That's what that handcuff is meant to portray. But here, the big men of power said that no, you can't handcuff them. But if it's somebody who has stolen a goat, you leg chain, you handcuff, you do anything and all that. I think that we need to be fair when we, talked about these things. And that's for me, if I must tell you, Deji, sometimes these days now, I just look at things. People like you invite me to come and talk. I don't have the appetite or urge to talk no more. Because issues are so discussed in such a manner. That doesn't do good to our collective search. The level of sentiment to our collective search for a better society. And I don't want to be part of that kind of discussion.
Thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be discussing security matters. Stay with us.
On Deji 360, we don't just ask the questions,
What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that band.
Deji 360, providing clarity to issues.